Hi, this is the man from Modesto. I spoke about how people can judge themselves, and I was challenged because I made an error. I said that David said he would lose 4 lambs and then he lost 4 wives. That's incorrect. David said that whoever had stolen, I'm talking about 2 Samuel chapter 12, pretty much the whole thing. Nathan the prophet comes before David, tells him the story of the ewe lamb that was taken by the rich man, and David judges himself, saying, "And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, As the Lord lives, the man that did this thing shall surely die." That's one thing, that he'll die. "And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing and because he had no pity." See, and that's the second thing. They has to pay back 4 lambs. Now, what Nathan says in response is, at 12:13, Nathan said unto David, "The Lord also hath put away thy sin, thou shalt not die." So that's what happens to the first one. God erases that. He says, you're not going to die. Right? So even though David declared it against himself, not understanding, the Lord said, I wiped that one away. It's not that nothing became of that. It's that David's death was wiped away by God. Okay, now, but the 4 lambs that have to be repaid, David loses 4 sons, and here's where he loses them. First, Bathsheba became pregnant while she was still Uriah's wife, but by David, and that child dies. That child dies in chapter 12, and it doesn't receive a name, but at 2 Samuel 12:18, you can see that's the first one of David's sons, or the first lamb. Then his son Amnon in 2 Samuel chapter 13, 28 to 29. Amnon is killed by Absalom because Amnon had tricked Absalom's sister Tamar into his house, and then he had raped her. So Absalom killed him. Then Absalom goes away for 3 years, and he comes back to the kingdom for 2 years, and he leads a revolution against the king. And Absalom eventually is killed by the 10 armor bearers of Joab, the leader of the armies, and that's in 2 Samuel 18:15. That's the 3rd son, Absalom. And then the 4th one is Adonijah. At 1 Kings 2:25, Adonijah is plotting to take the kingdom from Solomon, and so Solomon kills him. So those are the 4 sons. Those are the 4 lambs that David declared against himself. So he spoke that word himself. So he was tricked into judging himself. He was tricked into judging himself. And so that's all of God's things are fulfilled. And also in Proverbs 17:13, it says that the penalty for returning evil for good is that evil will never leave your house. Is that trouble will never leave your house. And that's something else. In 12:11, Nathan says, "Thus says the Lord, Behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this son." So David had given himself a certain penalty, but the Lord is even adding to that. Now, first of all, the Lord is keeping the word in Proverbs 17:13. Actually, that's from Solomon, who comes later. But that's a word of the Lord. If you return evil for good, it'll come back. Evil will never leave your house. So here's a proclamation here by Nathan, and so that happens. There's always war and contriving, striving for the throne in David's kingdom, in David's house. Okay, and then he says, "I will take your wives." So that's fulfilled at 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 3, where you see that it was 10 concubines who had been slept with by Absalom while he was trying to take over the kingdom. So you can see that all of those things were fulfilled. All of those things were fulfilled. So David did pronounce judgment against himself. He said he has to repay 4 lambs, and he lost the 4 sons that I just listed in this video. But David also said that man shall die. But God said, no, you're not going to die. So God said, I'm not going to do that. But God also added other penalty, the loss of the 10 concubines, and that peace would never leave his house. So you see, there are really, you know what, I'm going to let you make your own conclusion about that. I'm going to let you make your own conclusion about that. This is something you should pray. If you receive it in a revelation, it'll be much more your understanding than if I just speak it to you now. So this is the man from Modesto saying, as always, to pray or be defeated.